We need Nuremberg trials for anyone who was talking to Jeffrey Epstein, especially after his conviction for trafficking minors. That goes for Elon, Reid Hoffman, I don't care who you are. If you are in the upper echelons of our society trying to dictate policy and making millions upon millions of dollars off defense contracts, or if you're a nobody that nobody's ever heard of, but if we have evidence of you talking to Jeffrey Epstein, that is enough for us to need to question you. And we're going to do it ideally at the Iowa State Fair this year for the 250th birthday of this great country. Welcome back to Inverted World Not So Live. I hope you guys are okay. We've got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of files opened up. Look, you're not guilty of pedophilia just because you talked to Jeffrey Epstein. But as I have always said on this show, if you're talking to that guy after we all know he went to jail for hurting kids, you're a sick person too. It's that easy. I don't care what he had to offer you. This is a sick, sick man. Was he threatening your life? Okay, we can talk about it at the Nuremberg trials, at the Iowa State Fair. That will be televised live, and we're going to broadcast it to everybody. We're going to Project Bluebeam it into the sky, because we all need to shatter this satanic ring of pedophiles that are running the government. I mean, here we go. Look at these people. These people are out here confirming all of the conspiracy biases. That said, I think we should be careful about everything we're seeing online right now, and even with everything we're seeing in this massive batch of files that we got this weekend. Because there's a lot of stuff in here that will confirm many people's biases or sound like things that might not be what they actually are. But there's a lot of things in here. When it comes to Elon, he's already confirmed some of these emails. They might not look good or they'll be misinterpreted. You were emailing Jeffrey Epstein years after his conviction. I already don't like you. So this is a confirmation bias I've been trying to fight. Maybe there was something else. I was like, at first, maybe this is pre him going to jail for trafficking in Florida. But I was like, maybe I went through some other universe and, I woke up and I got my timelines all mixed up. No. Elon Musk is emailing Jeffrey Epstein, I want to hang out at your island. And he's online. Oh, I'm just too autistic to understand. You are a liar. Like everybody else who's involved with this. You're a liar. No one believes you. I mean, there's some. We've got Ian Miles Chong out there who's acting as if he's one of the gerbils that Richard Gere dealt with in the 90s. Give me a break. Give me a break. These people are all insane. They all hate you. They're all making a ton of money off of the destruction of our freedom and while building out the surveillance state. Palantir shows up a lot in these. Peter Thiel shows up a lot in these. Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk. And then there's also these complaints that are made that might be secondhand or they're firsthand. And we don't really know how to think of those because they might be true. That's the thing. The problem with the Me Too movement, and one of the many problems, was that it oversaturated the market of accusations that nothing really mattered anymore because nothing made sense. Nothing, almost as if it was by design for monsters to get away. Because obviously there's bad men. There's bad men and women in the world that harm people. Clearly. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. Look at all the people he's hanging out with. So, when they make these complaints about Trump, I'm here. Let's hear him out. Trump can get on the Nuremberg trials too. I want to sit everybody down. I want to have them all answer these questions we have about why, what, when, where, who. These are important things. Like I've been saying for some years now, this stuff matters so much because voting, what does it get you? It makes you feel nice. No matter what you do, no matter who you vote for, these demons are still going to do whatever they want to do. They're going to pull whatever strings they got to pull. That's the sad reality of Satan's territory. which we are constantly pushing back against. And this is a lot of proof of behind the scenes actions of really evil, despicable people pulling those strings. Like messages, like audio messages between Epstein and Ehud Barak, one of the former prime ministers of Israel, when he was in defense ministry, him asking Epstein, how he can start making money when getting out of office. And it wasn't like, we could use like this skill, this talent you have. It's like, no, we get those IOUs. Let's start pulling these strings. Let's go into Palantir. You see the way these people begin to operate. I think Epstein is so much bigger than just thinking of the Mossad or the CIA. This is an ancient strain of evil that has been operating on this planet, which is governed by Satan to destroy you, to harm your kids, and figure out how to sustain power throughout generations. So when I say all these people are lying, like Elon, who's like, I didn't understand. I just wanted to have a good time, wanted to party. I never went to the island. We don't know that, first of all. Second of all, you're always lying, bro. Like, you are a liar. Elon lied about holding his dead child to gain sympathy with people, to let him get away with not reinstating Alex Jones in the beginning. Go look it up. He is constantly lying. So there's no reason I'm going to believe him now. After he told us he didn't really have many interactions with Epstein. Now we see these emails that he confirmed are real. We see these interviews, this previous interview we saw, I think it was with Fox News with Howard Lutnick, Epstein's former neighbor. Oh, I went to his house once in like 2003 and he was a sick man. I didn't like what he said. I looked at my wife and I said, we'll never come back here. Well, guess what? You're in the emails too, buddy. When do you want to hang out? We want to get together. Years after this demon was in jail for trafficking minors, children, you sick freaks. So forgive me for not caring who shows up in the files. But let's get some trials for the files. I think that's fair. Because, like I was getting to my point earlier, these people, no matter who you vote for, are up there dictating what happens and when. Who dies? Who gets kidnapped? Who passes this policy? Who becomes a Supreme Court justice? Why are we starting that war? How do we topple that regime? You understand, it doesn't matter who you vote for. The midterms don't matter. The general elections don't matter. They should. We should participate in the republic, but it's been captured by demons. And a lot of this stuff, although it's not enough, I think we need a lot more, like accountability. And I think they need to start releasing more names, to really prove to the people. It's going to take a lot to the people to prove anything, because it's been made so partisan that everyone's going to use this as a cudgel against their political enemy. But this goes beyond left-right. This is all of them. Everyone's connected. We see Brian Johnson, the guy who wants to live forever, which makes sense because he's a transhumanist, like Elon Musk and like Jeffrey Epstein. I'm getting worked up. Need my tea. Well, appreciate you guys showing up. It's good to be back. Make sure I'm recording still. Got a microphone here that should be working better. And we'll get into it. I got a bunch of things pulled up. And let's just start. The place I thought to start that would be lighthearted would be, I'm putting on my glasses so I can read these files, would be that I used to write for a lady who goes by the name House and Habit. Her real name is Jessica Reed Krause. And when I started writing for her, I was like, it was awesome because her audience was awesome. They were into reading long stories that leaned into the conspiratorial, while I was able to pick apart a lot of the nuance and show them truths from unsealed documents to back up these things I was saying. It was amazing. Really enjoyed writing for her audience, but as I've said online, maybe not so much on the show, but there was a shift in her whole attitude around the time of the 2024 election, a few months before, maybe even that like September, October. And I really didn't know what was going on. But for those who don't know, she's made her a name for herself with a really awesome Substack. Well, it used to be awesome. And she covered a lot of stories like the Johnny Depp case, Ghislaine Maxwell case. And so she did a few things that I found to be interesting in terms of she was trying to make a point. So one of these things would be the shirt that said "Free Ghislaine Maxwell," "Free Ghislaine." At the time, years ago, her point, according to what she told me, was that I'm trying. This is her. I'm surmising. I'm not surmising. I'm basically just. I can't even think of the word. I was going to say plagiarizing, but that's actually something she's done to other writers. But she said to me, what I mean by this shirt is that if there are no clients who've been arrested, if none of these other people are in jail, then why Ghislaine? You know, okay, provocative. I get it. I get the point. But that had this weird shift a year or two later where she actually started to be like, no, Ghislaine's innocent and she's a victim. And at that point, I'm like, that's not the case whatsoever. Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, totally groomed Ghislaine into being what he was, which was kind of like a Jeffrey Epstein character. You know, worldwide thug, maybe involved in blackmail, involved in weird technological advances, textbooks, children. What was he doing and why did he die? And there's been some talk lately out of these files that maybe he died because he was allegedly ransoming the Mossad. People say Robert Maxwell was a Mossad. I think all these guys are kind of like adjacent to all of these intelligence organizations. So he might have worked for the Mossad. Mossad might have gone to him. Kind of how I feel about Epstein. The Mossad certainly went to Epstein for a lot of work. He was a fixer. He was a guy who could connect all of these people, move a lot of big money, weapons, stuff like that, trafficking, clearly, arms trafficking, and children. And it seemed like Robert was up to the same thing. So Ghislaine didn't fall too far from the tree, and I don't think we could just say she's innocent. So when House and Habit started to say Ghislaine's innocent and that she thought she was a victim, that was a little too far. I'm like, all right, you went from making an interesting point, a provocative point with your shirt to now saying she's innocent. And I'm like, that's just not the case. And we all know that from without having to see all of these files. You know, we've seen a lot of stuff, heard a lot of stuff, a lot of testimony. And like I said, her father being Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine really working closely with him. So, and then my friend Emily, who used to write with me at House and Habit, who's been on the show, Emily Hagan, she uncovered that House and Habit was actually in the Epstein files. And so House and Habit was also one of those people who got the Epstein binder, you know, and she became obsessed with access to the White House. She pretty much sold her soul to get access. And her spin on it would be, oh, you know, I'm just doing the real reporting. I'm on the ground talking to the people. But she's not doing real reporting. She's just a yes man. She's an attack dog for MAGA. And she'll do whatever they tell her to do. She became a propaganda machine, which was, I thought was pretty shocking. But maybe in retrospect, it does kind of make sense. Maybe that was always her purpose, like a lot of these people. And I've said my piece on the Pentagon Press Pass. Of course, she has one. And she's another example of like not asking real questions. Oh, what tie is Pete Hegseth wearing? No one cares, right? No one cares. So she's in the files, and Emily started posting about this weekend. And I'm like, well, you went from getting the Epstein binder to actually being in the files. And the reason she's in the files is because, making sure I'm still recording here, is because she had been known amongst a lot of Jeffrey Epstein's victims to be a bully and someone who was harassing them. So there's all these documentations, whether it's emails, or Substack articles rather, posts, really saying some pretty despicable things about people she didn't know. Now, you could believe or not believe victims. Like I said earlier with the Me Too movement, it oversaturated the idea of taking really any accusation seriously because so many false accusations were made. And those accusations were made, it seemed like an attempt to just climb this new ladder of success, which was built on top of the corpses of Me Too. That's also to say there are real monsters who do real bad things that I think we're getting away with stuff. Maybe some of them have real accusations like Jeffrey Epstein, but or maybe even like a Kevin Spacey, who's super weird to me. And I've heard things about him that predate Me Too, So House and Habit was in these files talking about harassing victims, calling them out, calling them fame hungry, fame whores, just totally ridiculous stuff. Which reminded me of my first interaction with House and Habit, which is funny. Way before I wrote for her. And at the time, I'll just cut really quick to after what I'm about to tell you. I look back at what I'm about to tell you and thought she got something wrong. It happens. We get things wrong. And I really, at the time, years ago, enjoyed what she was trying to do, enjoyed that her audience was into talking about really in-depth problems in our society and was open and engaged and willing to read long things. So I kind of gave her a pass for what I'm about to say. But now, in retrospect, after looking through these files and the things that like a lot of other people, a lot of them being victims of Epstein, are claiming, like that actually puts this in a different perspective. So, you all remember the Eliza Blue story. I got a lot of hate for it. I still love that story. I would write it again. And whether you believed her story or not, my main takeaway, and I did believe her story, my main takeaway was that the amount of insanity and threats on her and anyone in her periphery didn't warrant, like, no matter, even if she lied, it didn't warrant that sort of mob mentality. You see this thing happen again and again and again with the mob mentality. They have a new victim. They're tearing them apart. Sometimes rightfully so, but we also have no idea. Look, I've been in like the periphery of so many people who've been trending on Twitter while the world hates them. So I've seen it. I've seen the lies about them. I can verify things, whether it's through documentation that I look through bank records, leases that were signed, all these things, pay stubs, all this stuff, or just knowing the person really well. And that goes for Eliza. It's been with Tim. It's been with Kanye. It's been with Carrie Lake, all these, Alex Jones. I knew them. I know them to some degree, some more than others. And I'm like, wow, they're just creating a complete, fabricating a reality to hate this person because they've created a caricature that makes it easy for anyone to believe anything. And if you start to hate the caricature, you start to believe in the caricature, then anything the internet puts out about the person you now hate, you will believe easily. So my first real experience with that was the Eliza story, even though I'd already done the Kanye story. And as viral as that went, nothing compared to the madness of the Eliza story. So the House connection here is that House and Habit, while I was writing the story, while I was interviewing Eliza's parents, House and Habit, who I'd been a fan of and had millions of followers, started posting things about Eliza's story that I'm like, all right, well, I'm here. I'm going to ask her. I'm going to ask her parents. Every time I'm getting a crazy question, I'm seeing it online. And at this point, everyone knew I was writing the story. So I'm just getting them. I'm like, okay, let's, what's your answer to this? What's your answer to this? And then how can I try to verify this in 3 days time to write the story? So House and Habit was sharing a ton of things that I thought were interesting. I was asking. Eliza denied. Her parents denied. It was about timeline stuff, where she was living, who was paying her. And look, who knows? Like I said in that story, and I told them this while I was there, for all I know, this is a fake house. You guys are FBI. And this is like some weird scenario that you're all propping up to like support some narrative to get after Elon, to get after X. I don't know what, censorship on Twitter. I'm a paranoid person, and I'm allowed to think those things. So I was coming at it from like various angles, and then House and Habit shared this thing about Elon Musk unfollowed Eliza on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, so what happened here? And she said Elon never followed her. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't just take her word for it. So I looked it up. Of course, there's all these different Twitter accounts, different bots that track everyone Elon's ever followed. He never followed her. So now people were using this obviously as an attack, line of attack on her to help discredit her in this time. And there's really nothing you could do. You know, I'm just asking the questions, writing my story, telling the people how I feel. And I was very interested in why House was saying these things and where she was getting them from. Look, there was a lot of stuff out there that I had a lot of issues with. You know, whether it was videos that were taken down, and, you know, in the story I had Eliza talk about that, and the hip hop stuff, timeline stuff, you know, all these things. And that's a whole other story. And I have revisited that on so many different episodes. You can look at my latest one on Elijah Schaefer's. That was a good one. Tripoli, you know, I've talked about it a ton. Always happy to talk about it. And obviously that had like a profound impact on me, how I saw this whole space, my colleagues, people I didn't know. And it definitely did confirm a lot of things I already thought about mob mentality online. And people are free to feel however they want. I've made amends with a lot of people who said some crazy things about me, and it's fine. Like, I just don't care. It's part of the game, you know? I said my piece. I believed in it. But, like, and I constantly reminded people in the story, don't trust me. Like, I'm here in the middle of this thing now, a part of the story being attacked just because I'm here. So clearly, I have my own biases. But I'm also trying to remain objective. And I'm trying to show you like the conflict in my brain as I'm doing the story in real time. But I'm not the authority on the truth, and neither is anybody else. So, but House was trying to be the authority, and it was very odd to me on why it was so important to her to discredit the story. So now years have gone by, and now I'm seeing like this, that is the play for so many different people. Why are you discrediting the victims? What were you being paid? Are you being handled? Or did you just like to do it? Do you just hate them? That's fine. Like, if that's the case, whatever. Like, maybe you're doing it for free because it's the love of the game. You know, that's totally fine. We should all, as the audience, see everyone's point of view when it comes to these really heightened political stories. The Eliza thing was important because of Twitter censorship. People believe she was like in bed literally and metaphorically with Elon, which I don't think was the case. Clearly they talked, but I don't think there was a thing there. They thought I was with her. Like, they were so predictable, they as in the people who were already hating them, that Nancy and I were able to sit down before I even wrote the story and be like, this is all the things they're going to say, right? Clearly, it's predictable. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you know, I'm saying this because of this, it's a cover-up, da-da-da-da-da. Man, that was a crazy time. But it was like really interesting to get kind of hated on, which is fine, by people that I respected from a distance, you know, but it's all good. And I went on to do plenty of shows and even write for some of these people. This is how the internet goes, you know. Don't threaten my kids. That wasn't fun. But again, to be expected in those situations. Mostly trolls. Like, I would never say we should ban anonymous accounts on Twitter because of a situation like that, no matter what anyone said to me. Clearly, you know, I will die on that hill. That's a debate I had with Jeremy Boring, a man who I think is despicable and evil and could probably afford some better hair plugs than the one he and Elon bought. But we had that talk on IRL a few years ago, you know, and I think he's wrong because he's soft. Right? He's obviously a little soft, rich man. And that's fine. That's his thing. But he's made of soy. Hey, that's his problem. But he doesn't like trolls. He doesn't like anonymous accounts. And he thinks it's bad. I think it's important. I prefer to use my name and face online. And I think everyone should. But there's a reason to remain anonymous. And you have every right. I'm all saying that because I got threatened by a lot of anonymous trolls. I think a lot of it was fake. I think a lot of it was bots. I think a lot of it was people who just like to be anonymous, and they can say whatever they want to me. That's fine. That's great. I learned from it. I like seeing it. I collect them. I have my, not on this wall, but I frame a lot of the best things people have said about me. And by best, I mean the craziest. But I oppose censorship, and I think being able to remain anonymous online is important. So there's a lot of people who've come under fire for various reasons, and Jeremy's obviously got a much larger platform, has started a much bigger company. So I get it. He's seen more of it, but it doesn't mean that we should try to pass a bill, like he said, that should take away your right to be anonymous. Insane. It's insane. So there's so many different things that come out of this. Anyway, the House and Habit thing, she's in the files. She's now being accused with all this evidence of attacking victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Why is that? I don't know. Love to know more, but I find it very interesting. Having been attacked by her before I knew her, and now attacked by her now, post working for her. If you don't remember, I woke up one morning, she sent me a text message in October of last year, like 5 a.m, calling me a Christian fraud, because of the whole, I stood up and said, I defended Candace. Oh my goodness. It had nothing to do with House and Habit. She took it personally. We don't have to get into all that drama, but this is her thing. She attacks people who happen to reject whatever reality she's trying to manufacture. I oppose that reality. I reject that reality. I think she is a fraud. I think she is evil. I wish I knew that sooner. I had these hints. I saw these red flags, but I was willing to extend grace to lots of people post the Eliza story, and they have done for me. They don't have to change their minds about my story. I haven't changed my mind about my story. Maybe it was a little too long. I'll give you that. But I like it, and I stand by what I said. Always. I wouldn't have written it if I didn't. And those people stand by what they said about me. And that's fine. Plenty of people made videos about it. But that was different. There's people who were swept up and they had certain feelings about it. And then there were people who might have been, are they being paid like House and Habit? Are they being handled? Is someone telling them to say these things? So you can go find Emily's page on Instagram. She really digs into that deeper. I have to bring that up because I just think that is scary and hilarious. Oh, man. So she's in there. Just look up House and Habit in the files. And now the other thing I was interested in before I get into other things I pulled up was something we don't talk about enough, and that is Karina Shuliak. That is Jeffrey Epstein's last girlfriend. Maybe current girlfriend, because I still think he's alive. But, he was allowed to make this final phone call his last day in jail. He told the officers he was calling his mom, but his mom had been dead for years. So he wasn't calling his mom. So strike one there. Who's Karina Shuliak? So I was like, I'm going to search the files for her. And there's not a lot. I haven't gone through everything. There are multiple pages, dozens of pages with her. But it looks like she was not just a girlfriend, but like a personal assistant. And, just a few things I pulled up. Like Epstein wanted, this is through emails from Karina to other people. Epstein wanted her to get laser removal for her hair on her upper lip, which, okay. Weird. And maybe it has something to do with his other predilections. But a lot of it with her is just these things called daily recaps. Things that she needed to do, I guess, for him. Buy Bailey's. This is a checklist. Salmon, scallion, cream cheese from Russ and Daughters. Body scrubs. Pack the black bag. Trip itinerary. So a lot of the stuff is stuff that they were doing on leading up to certain trips they were about to go on. That's from 2014. So it's just and they called it Base Camp J.E. Angels, is what it's from, and it's her checklist. And there's just a lot of these, as well as messages between Epstein and her saying miss you. And there's 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 S's in miss. And it's between her and Epstein. Nothing really that crazy, but things about Zorro Ranch, but nothing like about it being this horror factory of eugenics. But she seemed to be involved with a lot of things. Zorro Ranch, trips to what seemed like the island and other places, his day-to-day stuff, and but also intimate things like missing each other, loving each other, asking how his tooth is, asking how Jeffrey's tooth is, her saying, "Do you want me to meet you at Dr. Magnani?" I looked that up. That is a dentist in New York City. Apologizing for the typos, which is funny because I think a lot of the typos we're also seeing in the files are with like the equal signs. I think might be from whatever extraction tool they're using to transcribe all this stuff. I could be wrong, but I've seen a lot of people saying that. But she's just kind of like a personal assistant / girlfriend, but she seems to have known quite a bit. And I'm curious, like, obviously this is not everything. It's a start, but we need more. Thankful for everyone who's digging into this stuff. This should be the biggest story. Like I said at the beginning of the show, these are the people behind the scenes really running the government in this world, in this country, around the world. That's what I meant to say. In this country, other countries, but around the world. Like I said, I forget when it was, on IRL, or maybe it was the Epstein culture war we did with Phil. But like, these people have their hands in everything. Like Robert Maxwell was working with Eastern European governments, Israel, this country, education system. So was Epstein. Why was Epstein involved in all these situations? And then it's all about like narrative control, how these people are able to get away with it. Because it's not just the evil, depraved reality of like what they did to children, whether it's the trafficking or worse. Because there's other things in here. I'm sure you guys have seen it over the weekend. There's worse things. There's accusations of what sounds like Bush. I don't know if it's senior or junior, or not junior, but HW and W. Maybe eating a child, which then gets into Pizzagate situations, and which I've always thought is real. I don't think these things are just crazy conspiracy theories. We are surrounded by demons. Anyone telling you otherwise is either paid by the demons to make you think that you're crazy, or they're just ignorant, or they just can't accept the fact, maybe through their own atheism or solipsism, this idea that they are the center of the universe and nothing else is going on around them, that they can't bring themselves to face that reality, which I get. I've talked about on this show quite a bit, like when I wrote the story about catching pedophiles in Ohio with Alex Rosen. Shout out Alex Rosen. So many people were like, I can't read the story. I'm glad you did it, but it's disgusting. I'm like, I understand, but you need to face this reality. This is the reality. If you're a parent, this is what is the world you're inheriting. This is unfortunately the past, the present, and the future. And these people maintain their power through narrative control. That is such a big part of the power that they maintain. They have to create, whether it's through fog of war, through bad information, putting out bad information that they can easily then be like, see, this is fake. You were wrong. We're not that bad. Controlling, gatekeeping, news, Hollywood, all sorts of things. This is something I saw that was interesting. Let's see who posted this. I want to give him credit. There's so many people. I saw this from Elk N Taro, ELKENTARO on Twitter. He shared this from the Epstein files. This is on the website. It's to Jeffrey Epstein from a man named Al Seckel. And the subject is Hacking Wiki Again. This is from some November 6, 2010. Al wrote this. They have all sorts of protection around your mugshot picture on Wiki. And so we are hacking Wiki now to remove it and replace it with the photo that you sent, which will have the headline, Jeffrey Epstein, businessman, philanthropist. Pause. How many times have I said on this show, on every show, every time I've read an article about Jeffrey Epstein, oh, they just called him disgraced philanthropist. No, this is a part, that's a tentacle of the narrative control. Whether those writers know it or not, right? Whether they're basing it off what they're seeing on Wikipedia, or they just can't bring themselves to say evil pedophile. They could just say pedophile. I know it's a little redundant to say evil pedophile, but I think, we got to really make sure the reader understands we're dealing with evil here. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to believe that all of this reality boils down to good versus evil, which I believe that's all it is. But you do understand there are monsters out there. They look like you and I. They're in every institution. They're teachers. They could be pastors. They could be bus drivers. They could work at your bank. They could be police officers and firefighters. They're Democrats and they're Republicans. No one's off limits. This is an ancient strain of evil that infects everybody. Okay? So don't tell me that we're not up against major evil. You don't have to believe in God. I wish you did. I wish you'd accept Christ, because that is our one shield and our sword against the demons in this territory of Satan. But you don't have to. I wish you did. I wish you did. You can't deny the fact that there are a ton of people out there that want to harm children. I mean, look at this. Look at this world. Look how many children have been saved. To the FBI's credit, this administration, last administration, and the administration before that, look how many children have been rescued from trafficking. Can't deny it. Look how many hundreds of thousands of children went missing over the border under our border czar Kamala Harris. Where'd they go? We didn't get them all back. A lot of this is allowed to happen not just because there's powerful people protecting powerful people and everyone's being blackmailed by these sickos that run the world, but because they have complete narrative control. That's why, a lot of the good that came out of Twitter, despite its problems, and a lot of the good that came out of independent media, despite its problems, people were able to subvert the narrative. That's why those people became enemies of the state. That's why a lot of those people, some of them are getting arrested, some of them are getting censored, character assassinated and assassinated. You understand this. So back to the email from Al to Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, we also took out you in the sex offender category and removed the headline and beginning sentence from Wiki that also stated sex offender. And now it just reads businessman philanthropist. That might not mean a lot to us because we get it. But to the normal person out there who's just maybe the casual observer going through it, looking it up, or the casual reporter, this has a profound effect because they see these things like Wikipedia as institutional to objective truth. We know that's not the case, obviously. But these are the little but profound things they do to control the narrative. Back to this. This is the crazy part too. We recorded the IP addresses of the people who were going in and changing our edits back and actually hacked the site to block them back in. That's why the site has been stable. Disgusting. So that's just one example of narrative control. His rehabilitation tour, which, man, that Steve Bannon interview, I'm not even going to get to that yet because that's a whole other thing. That's a very long video and it's fascinating. But Steve Bannon doing these rehabilitation interviews for his image, gross. I like Steve. I like a lot of what he says. But that stuff, and we've known that he did these things. Maybe this is my own naivete. I was under the assumption that he was doing some sort of documentary on him. And I think, you should be able to do a documentary on anybody. Putin, Ted Bundy, right? Dahmer, the sickos of the world and the normal people, anybody. I like stories about humans on this insane planet. I was under that assumption. That assumption changed when I started watching the interview, which is a 2-hour interview that's out there between Bannon and Epstein, because it does appear to be it's a image rehabilitation process, which is gross. There are a lot of weird things. Epstein emailed himself a list of names for Bannon. I believe it was like somehow before he died. I'm putting in quotes for those of you just listening right now. A lot of those names would be like Ehud Barak. I mean, it's a block of names. A lot of names are people that have already been associated with a lot of that stuff. So moving on. Where do I even go? I'll probably just do more of this tomorrow, honestly. There's just so much I want to get to. I saw this from the AF Post. In 2017, Bill Gates discussed plans for pandemic simulations with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's check this out. Now, man, Bill Gates, I'm sure you guys have seen it. I'll say it here just in case you haven't seen it. There's that email of Jeffrey, I think like to himself, about things he could say about Bill Gates. One of these things is talking about how Bill Gates asked allegedly for antibiotics that he could secretly slip to his wife at the time, Melinda, to help get rid of the STDs that he got from a Russian girl. These are sick men. Okay, so this is to Bill Gates, allegedly. Bill, Larry and I have been working on deliverables from my time at BG3 since you and I spoke at Larry's request. I have spoken with Roger, Mark, Chris, Trevor, Jeff, and next week, Bose and Jonah. Everyone was offered guidance, advised thoughts and ideas. As Larry works to put together and required documentation, we are trying to make sure we make this time valuable. 2 areas that I'm interested in terms: domestic health and neurotech, brain science. I propose these as deliverables. Please let Larry and I know what you think. To improve access and secure personal health data, blueprint and our recommendations for a zero-knowledge, proof-based digital system to secure private personal health information while allowing access to digitally redacted personal information. White paper on consumer health expenditures, white paper recommendations of neurotechnologies, whatever is helpful. And then it goes on to say about how they were proposing simulated outbreak scenarios to expand health data infrastructure and that neurotechnology, which they mentioned in the email, which you might then be reminded of the fact that Bill Gates was in charge of the COVID vaccine passport digital system that they were trying to put in New York. Actually, I think they did use it in New York. I obviously didn't use it. I didn't take it. But I think it might have been, I don't know if it was beyond New York. I'm sure it probably was. But this is what they do. They plan these things well in advance. I think this ancient evil, you have to say it's smart. Obviously, it's not like it's it's brutish. It's like cavemanish. It's not dumb. This is ancient, very intelligent evil. They know what they're doing. They're planning these things out well in advance. And Epstein's interest in health and science is really apparent in these files, but we knew that. I've talked about what Eric Weinstein has said about Epstein at Harvard in the math department, why he was involved. I mean, he doesn't know. He was asking, why was he involved? Why did he have an office here? Why was he interested in this gravity technology, zero gravity technology, time travel, really interesting, far out stuff. For one, it's because he was a transhumanist. They're looking to extend life, but I think they're also looking to gather information on everybody, just like the Chinese are. That's why they bought 23andMe. That's why Bill Gates, I believe, is manufacturing personalized bioweapons. Now, he might not be doing it himself in his little laboratory with his sweaters on, but he's outsourced this to the government. Like, these guys are all having dinner, Zuckerberg and Thiel, Altman, with Trump, Gates. They are, this, a lot of this is a part of the military-industrial complex, and it is turned against you and me. It is meant to destroy you, control you, learn how to manufacture ways to understand how you work on a molecular level, as in these health data infrastructures, Like, there's a reason Peter Thiel started a company where he tracks women's menstrual cycles. It's weird, but he's a vampire. And vampires like blood. He's a transhumanist. He's also funded companies that want to, like the parabiosis, inject younger blood into you to help you live longer. Brian Johnson has done this, right? I believe with his own son. These are all these transhumanist globalists. These people that, like Alex Jones used to say he hated, they're the ones who are up to this stuff. It's like, I think Silicon Valley needs to be just dismantled. It's one of the biggest problems in society. This idea that technological progress is the only way forward. We can coexist with it, of course. We can innovate, of course. But to outsource our entire future to the transhumanists who have built up this dystopian nightmare out of their dystopian city with their like landscapes of data centers, give me a break. I almost thought I turned it off. Give me a break. How about this one? This is from the Gateway Pundit. Shocking email from Epstein files implicates former U.S. Ambassador, Biden's first commanding officer of SEAL Team 6, and more. A series of emails uncovered in the most recent release by the Department of Justice reads like a spy thriller novel. American agents in a foreign country attacking local law enforcement to disrupt an investigation. I'll just stop right there and say, hey, remember when we had informants involved in the assassination of the Haitian president? Remember when we overthrew Iran in the 50s? I mean, we don't remember it, but you remember? This is what these sickos do. Threats made all the way up to the president of Mexico, a judge shot by an American in order to delay a trial, a U.S. ambassador implicated in all of it, and a U.S. Special Forces icon being detained in an undisclosed location. Plot twist, the Special Forces veteran is the bad guy. The emails appear to involve Ken Turner, who goes by Ken T in the emails, and possibly New York NYPD detective Walter E. Harkins, based on a signature field in one of the emails. Harkins retired from the NYPD just days after the 2024 election, following a 33-year career ending 4 generations of familiar service to the department. It's always 33, isn't it? Each redacted email address is followed by New York or OGA. On July 19, 2019, Turner sent an email to the New York OGA and disclosed the individuals he was working with in Mexico. He described also Operation Fast and Furious, anyone in Mexico, where the guns we were sending to cartels secretly ended up being the guns I think also killed our own agents. He described one, Jorge Gonzalez, as my friend in the Mexican federal government with a federal police phone number. He also mentioned an ex-South African police officer and psychologist named Marina and introduced her as his partner. I'm already forgetting something. I have to go back to the House and Habit stuff. Maybe I'll get back to it tomorrow. But she's also involved deeply with Nicholas Tartaglione, the former cellmate of Jeffrey Epstein, who that's a whole... I've talked about that at length here. Kind of meant to bring that up because that is really getting into, through that story, getting into cartel situations with Mexico, which is why I'm reminded of it here. We are all under threat from U.S. agents here, so we try to be very careful about how we talk and where, Turner wrote. He continued, when you talk to Jorge, ask him who I was referring to when I said high-powered individual who has threatened him. Me and Marina, and who spoke to President of Mexico last week and told him we would not back off on the threats toward us three. New York OGA responded, okay, thanks, I'll be in touch. 3 days later, Turner wrote back to request a phone call. He said, Jorge is prepared to talk to you re Marchenko and Epstein and all the videos and photos he has. Marchenko later would be identified as Richard Marchenko, the first commanding officer of the elite SEAL Team 6. He will openly disclose what evidence he has and who some of the participants at these sex parties were. 4 days later, Turner wrote back with concern asking, who on your team knows we are talking to you? Anyone assigned from NSA, CIA, or U.S. State Department? That particular email also claims that an American shot a judge who was presiding over Turner's child sex trafficking case, and that Jorge and Turner both have been attacked by armed individuals 4 times. My partner has shot and killed 2 and wounded 5 American agents to date. What? We've had another serious incident since an American shot the trial judge in our child sex trafficking case here. I'm going to pause there and just remind everyone about the judge that here in America that was looking into Epstein bank accounts, who was about to preside over a bank trial, who had a man dressed up as a FedEx worker show up to her house and then assassinate, I think, her kid and shot her husband. I believe the husband survived. And the shooter was found dead later on from a self-inflicted gun wound. I do not believe that person that they found was the shooter. That's just me. This is why I'm reminded of it. You see, the fixers, the death. He and I, the narrative control. He and I both think this latest incident is tied to the fact that we have reached out to your team. Who on your team knows we are talking to you? Anyone assigned from NSA, CIA, or U.S. State Department, please understand people's lives here are in jeopardy. We have had 4 armed attacks against us. My partner has shot and killed 2 and wounded 5 American agents to date, and numerous white American agents following us in vans assigned to U.S. Embassy. Jorge was attacked and lost his arm. The President of Mexico is keenly aware of our case against Marchenko and other U.S. officials. This case we have here is most certainly connected to yours. We have the proof. Our case will help bring a whole new dynamic to what you know and who is involved. Prince Philip is small fry compared to what we have uncovered. You may want to question the ex-U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Mr. Earl Anthony Wayne, about his involvement with an underage girl when he attended and was arrested by the federal police. We believe that Marchenko and Epstein were involved organizing this party, and it was held in Juarez, Mexico in 2014 at a U.S. consulate-controlled housing facility. Ask him how he knows Richard Marchenko. He was sentenced in Mexico in 2017 to a life sentence for impregnating an 11-year-old girl. Her son's DNA matches Wayne's 100%, but he is allowed an ex-U.S. Marine to stand in his place to serve his sentence in Mexico. That was an agreement worked out between our U.S. State Department and a judge in Mexico after a huge payoff. Mr. Anthony has an outstanding arrest warrant here in Mexico for avoiding sentencing. His cell number is redacted. I want to confirm that the phone you will be using has been swept for malware and keyloggers. After our call, you'll understand why we are so concerned with secure comms here. It is. I always find it interesting that all these emails even exist. There are instances in emails where Jeffrey's asked about certain things and goes, not. He says like not for email. So it's like he does have a line, and some people do. But it reminds me of reading through a lot of the JFK files that came out last year. Nothing that was too surprising, but just that the CIA keeps documents of everything, all their memos. Like 2 CIA agents saying, hey, we're going to poison all the crops in Cuba. You know, it's like, it's all there. And maybe it's all just propaganda. Honestly, you have to consider it. Like I was saying earlier, I'm paranoid, but you kind of have to be. You know, when you're talking about this stuff, why are we seeing it now? Why are we allowed to see it? I don't think, okay, I think a lot of this is probably real. A lot of this is also just made up in terms of like maybe the accusations, but a lot of those accusations might also be real. We have no idea. You know, it's so hard to know now after these files have been through the hands of so many administrations and so many people with things to lose, what's real and what's not. You know, like Elon had access to everything. Like we just found out that Doge gave a ton of people who shouldn't have had a lot of our information. They like, I don't think they sold it, but they gave it to him. You know, like that sucks. But also, your stuff is on the black market already. Like all of our social security numbers have leaked. That was, I think, a story a year or 2 ago. So it's like there is no privacy, and there is no you. There's us, the one that lives in the physical world, but online, you are probably also buying a bomb in Ukraine right now. So congratulations on your bomb. But isn't that story insane? All right, this is probably going to be a 2-parter because there's so many things I want to go through. And I don't think it's something you can just do like one video on, honestly, and just move on. This is what matters. I don't care about the elections. I don't care about our politicians other than them being under trial, put on trial, and being asked lots of questions. If it's Vance, Trump, I don't care. Rubio, I don't care. Like they said, Rubio is funding the Steele dossier. I don't care. Left, right, put them on trial. What, when, where, why, who? Let's do it. Let's pull it apart. We need it. And that is how I feel in my heart. Like, sure, we can complain about the left. Obviously. We should be complaining about the right just as much. I care about my conservative Christian values, none of which are being upheld by the left or the right. They've all sold you out. and none of them seem to have morals. Look how much they lied to us about these files. If we're going to believe that a lot of this stuff is true, which I think a lot of it is, could be wrong. You know, we live in the world of AI. So many things are fabricated. We know the CIA and the FBI has a history of fabricating letters as well. That's why you have to take all these things into account. But we see them lie constantly. Look at Bongino. Oh my goodness, I'm missing Bongino's podcast right now. I wonder how many things he said, how many lies he's shared right now. You know, like look at Bongino and Patel. Look at all the things they've told us. And Trump, it's a hoax. There's nothing in the files. Look, there's nothing that's like, because I think there's more that they're obviously withholding. As Todd Blanche has said himself, there are videos, deaths, torture, which we've seen torture videos mentioned in these files. They have more. They've seen what's unredacted. Let's get some arrests. Let's get some trials. This is the sinister strain of ancient evil that is operating behind the scenes. I will repeat it ad infinitum, that needs to be dealt with. I don't care who's involved. I don't care if I voted for you. You need to be put on trial, broadcast to the world. I want to see you under pressure. Look, just because you had a Nuremberg trial doesn't mean, you know, you're going to lose your life. I don't believe in execution. I don't believe in the death penalty. I'd prefer to see these people rot. Honestly. I know it's a tough one, because when it comes to hurting children, it is really hard for me to think about letting you have a life. But I think about this quite a lot, because we are surrounded by evil, you know, and I want to hold evil to account. But I think it lets them off easy, letting them just die. I think true suffering will come within the confines of a cell, in the confines of their skull, of their rotten skull. And maybe they'll make amends with God in there, and that's between them and God. But it's not for us to extend that grace. I also don't think it's for us to take a life like they have, whether it's the maiming of a soul or the actual murder, which seems to have taken place through these files and has been confirmed through Todd Blanche that there has been deaths in videos and tortures. We have this. I saw this from Mario Narwhal. An email from the DOJ's Epstein files show a 2019 Proton email exchange where an investigator claims Epstein's death wasn't suicide based on evidence they uncovered in Mexico. Just heard about Epstein. Based upon what we have discovered here and what was involved here in Mexico, we don't believe it was suicide. When you have 5 minutes, you need to listen to what we have as evidence. The investigator, Ken Turner, says they found videos and photos of Epstein with former Navy SEAL Richard Marcinko during what he describes as child trafficking investigation in Mexico. He claims security embassies, goes on to say that. I want to read more from this email. Just heard about Epstein based upon what we have discovered here and who was involved here in Mexico. We didn't believe it was suicide. We don't believe it was suicide. When you have 5 minutes, you need to listen to what we have as evidence. And who is this? It doesn't say, other than Ken T again. And it says here lower in the email, my nephew Logan Turner was shot and killed in the mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio last evening. I am rushing home to be with my immediate family. All investigative work on Marcinko and Epstein is still in process, and we have uncovered more videos and photos of two of them together in Mexico. Another attempt by U.S. Embassy security team was made yesterday when they stopped my partner and searched her car looking for the videos and photos we uncovered that they told her could not leave Mexico. They were not in her car. Someone doesn't want this data disclosed. And just a quick note on that in passing, it's crazy that in passing he's saying that his nephew was killed in a mass shooting. I think Candace is onto something in her videos from, I think it was last week or the week before, about mass shootings and people who show up at mass shootings, and sometimes people show up in multiple mass shootings, survive one, die in another, weird circumstances. I do think that some mass shootings are manufactured to take out one person. A lot of people were saying that kind of thing happened in the shooting that happened, I believe, in Buffalo, when that man died, who was said to have invented some sort of water-powered car. And who knows? Who knows? But it's worth considering. And that just made me think of it. Okay, this one's quick. Shout out to Red Panda Koala on Twitter. They found that one of Jeffrey Epstein's bank accounts was named Baal. And for those who don't know, in the Bible, Jeremiah excoriates the Judahites for sacrificing babies to Baal in offerings called Moloch. And he shares the image here, bank account called Baal. Insane. So you might have also seen that Pizzagate was trending this weekend because of these files, because of some of the most depraved things we were seeing in the files, such as that accusation made about one of the Bushes, one of our former presidents, taking part in what seemed like really insane child sacrifice. Something kind of like what Baal, Molech, would have wanted. So I saw this article I figured we should get into real quick. Why Pizzagate claims resurfaced after John Podesta's name appeared in the Epstein files. The release of the new Epstein documents by the U.S. Justice Department on Friday made conspiracy theorists again link the material to long debunked Pizzagate theories. So you already see where they're coming from. It's the long debunked theory. The renewed discussion centers around John Podesta, the former Hillary Clinton campaign chairman whose hacked emails in 2016 were twisted into the viral but false Pizzagate conspiracy. I mean, how do they know that? Narrative control. Pizzagate falsely claimed that Podesta and other Democrat officials were involved in a child trafficking ring supposedly operating out of Washington, D.C. pizzeria called Comet Ping Pong. I don't know if this is going to get into it, but I will say here that, if you don't know, that Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown, she's the one who sentenced this guy, the guy who showed up to the Comet Pizza. Look, I think I put this in my story about the pedophiles, but if I didn't, I think I did. But anyway, so many of those pedophiles, when you read their messages amongst each other, they mention cheese pizza. If you don't know about that CP meaning cheese pizza, CP meaning child porn, they use this language. So there's no doubt in my mind that these insane elites do these things. Not a doubt in my mind. And anyone trying to tell you you're crazy for thinking otherwise, I'm suspicious of. The theory has been repeatedly disproven by law enforcement, major news organizations, and investigators. Well, there you go. There you go. We're good. We can move on now. And Podesta himself has long condemned the claims as absurd and harmful. Have you seen his artwork? His children torture artwork? The newly released Epstein documents contain several email references to pizza, which online users have incorrectly interpreted as coded language. Experts say these interpretations are not supported by evidence and mirror the same pattern of misreading and misrepresentation seen in 2016. But they share this from WikiLeaks. It says, still in torture chamber. Another question, do you want to have February 14th Valentine's Day dinner? The Justice Department's latest release under the Epstein Transparency Act includes a wide range of communications from people connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Some messages casually mention food, including head count for pizza, or asking who in Austin wanted a pizza, which, you could look back on one of the first things I read about Karina Shuliak and see that her checklist could be more nefarious. Honestly, anything's possible. It didn't seem like that. It really did seem like a itinerary for travel, but they speak in code. I've seen it. I've seen pedophiles speak in this very code. These are typical workplace or social exchanges, but conspiracy groups online have presented them as coded messages, despite no evidence supporting such claims. Despite the man at the center of this entire fiasco went to prison for child trafficking and was given a sweetheart deal by the government so he could leave jail whenever he wanted and maintain his passport. Yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing. This is all normal. A few social media posts went viral saying the documents prove Pizzagate was real. Some users made unverified claims about torture, violence, or coded language. Fact-checking organizations and researchers said there is no indication that the word pizza in the documents refers to anything other than food. Podesta's name appears only in passing in one document, a brief reference to him leading a Democratic think tank. He does not appear in any Epstein contact lists in the new release, nor is he accused of wrongdoing in the filings. Still, the mere mention of his name has triggered old conspiracy narratives. In the past interview with Rolling Stone, Podesta called Pizzagate painful and crazy, stating that he had never before seen misinformation spread so aggressively. Now, Rolling Stone, not known for always reporting its best, they've been caught in lies. I used to love Rolling Stone, but anyway. Also, Podesta says so. Howard Lutnick said he never hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. Then we got emails saying from him, hey, when we want to hang out, pal. Elon Musk caught in lies. I don't hang out with him. Dude, you hit him up. Jeffrey Epstein died. Okay, we know that. Already right there, you know that line. Jeffrey Epstein died? Jeffrey Epstein died? Really? Okay. So I do think a lot of the stuff we're seeing, if it is real, does give merit to things like Pizzagate and even things like Frazzle Drip. We don't have to get into that right now. Well, we can. If you got kids in the room, we'll just come back to this in a second. Frazzle Drip is the story that they say, I think they got the video off Anthony Weiner's computer. Anthony Weiner was Huma Abedin's husband. He was very close Clinton associates. And Anthony Weiner was in trouble for sending, of all things, pics of his wiener to underage girls. I mean, this is psychotic. This is a sick man. Sick. Anyway, they said Frazzle Drip was on it. I think it's because the frazzled.rip was the file name. But it allegedly shows, again, not for the faint of heart right now, but you probably already know this. It allegedly shows video of Huma and Hillary, I believe, cutting the face off of a girl and wearing the face. Look, I hate to say that does not sound far-fetched. How many stories have we gone through? Whether it's people that were in power or people who were just your neighbor who've done insane things like this. If you've read my reporting on the Long Island serial killer, you'll know how many people in one little area did so many heinous things to those women. And I don't mean just killing them. Mutilation, torture, really disgusting stuff. So I guess I want to do another episode on this tomorrow with more stuff. But I want to find this one thing that will wrap up the last part with this and also show you just the web of global control. The undeniable conspiracy at foot. The worldwide satanic organization maintaining power over our world governments. And this is a good example of that power, of that ancient evil, and how it remains in power and what it can create. I thought this was just so disturbing. The son whose mother asked Jeffrey Epstein about naked women wallpaper is the same man now on trial for raping 4 women. In 2012, Crown Princess Merritt emailed Epstein, "Is it inappropriate for a mother to suggest 2 naked women carrying a surfboard for my 15-year-old son's wallpaper?" Epstein, a convicted sex offender at the time, shout out to this writer for making sure we understand context, told her to let him decide. That son, Marius Borg Hoiby, now faces 38 criminal charges, including 4 counts of rape. The trial starts Tuesday. And this is thanks to DD Geopolitics on Twitter. Historians called this the biggest scandal in Norway's 120-year royal history. That was before the Epstein files showed his mother appears over 1,000 times, visiting his Palm Beach house, taking his parenting advice, having his staff arrange her flight her flights and drivers. I mean, it's really crazy. It might also make you think, if you haven't seen already, that we found out, I guess, allegedly, it's hard to tell because there's a lot of AI images out there that are fake, but I think the story is true that Mayor Mamdani's mom was at parties with Epstein. And this is just a little bit from the article about the son of Norway Crown Prince to stand trial. In the biggest scandal to rock Norway's monarchy, the son of Crown Princess Merit goes on trial this Tuesday, tomorrow, accused of raping 4 women as well as drug and assault offenses. Marisborg Høiby, Matt Merit's 29-year-old son from a relationship before she married Crown Prince Haakon, has been charged with a total of 38 counts, some of which date back to 2018. He faces up to 16 years in prison if the Oslo District Court finds him guilty. The trial, scheduled to last until March 19th, is expected to attract intense media coverage. When it comes to the Norwegian royal family, it is without a doubt the biggest scandal in its 120-year history. So I think that's just such a crazy connection. Crazy connection. I remember hearing that story and thinking, but look, who knows? Could all be fake, right? I hate to have to keep saying that, but it's something we have to consider. Why now? There's reports that Trump's going to announce a UFO disclosure, and okay, why? Is it just to distract us from this? Is it really aliens? Is it something else? Is it just Palantir masquerading as aliens? Crazy times. But I will leave that there for now. I have more stuff I want to go over, but it's a lot to digest. There's so much going on. I just want to see if I miss anything that does connect to what we talked about today. Oh yeah, we got some crazy stuff for tomorrow. Oh yeah. But I just want to reiterate, like I said in the beginning, just because the people are in these files, it doesn't mean they're guilty. It doesn't mean they're guilty of doing the things that Epstein and a lot of other people are probably guilty of. Well, Epstein definitely. What it does show me is the willingness for people to ignore the realities of evil if it helps them progress their career or get money or maintain power. And that's why these people should all be stripped of power and never trusted again. Elon should be nowhere near the government. And maybe not Trump either, or Vance, because he's a Palantir test tube baby. And Thiel is obviously seems like in cahoots with Epstein. There's Epstein telling Ehud Barak he should invest in Palantir. This is so deeply interwoven. That's why, for me, it's easy to think about it as ancient. I believe it is ancient, but when you think about how long it takes for those roots, think of an old tree and how spread out and deep its roots go. That is what we're dealing with, right? It's not just we got rid of Epstein, now everything's fine. It's no, this is a large web of evil that you can't just stop overnight. It's why Trump kept saying it's a hoax. It's why Patel and Bongino look like hostages. You see, this is the most important story. There are other things we should obviously not ignore, keep talking about, but this actually gets to the heart of what people will call the deep state, of what Trump's Agenda 47 was supposed to go after. And this is a start, but this is just the surface. We can't be satisfied with this. There is more that needs to be done. And that's in terms of releasing more. And I think we do need to find out what's been redacted. Not all of it, as I understand we don't want to see, we should not see a lot of this stuff when it comes to the children. And I can't even imagine what people have to see who work on this. But we need accountability. It's not going to end, And I will say, even if people go to jail, even if there's accountability, you won't stop evil in Satan's world. This is the territory of Satan. We have God. We can fight back. We can protect our children. We can do our best to protect innocence. But we need to start somewhere. And we need to see some real accountability. I don't care about going to get Maduro. Use that same force and take out these people. At least abduct him and put him on trial at the Iowa State Fair and broadcast it to the world. Let's set an example. Let's try to get below the surface of just us digging through these emails, which are very important, and we need to debate them. We need to discern what's real and what's not. But we need to really understand what is wrong with these people and why are they in power and why are they lying to us constantly. It's so they can sustain their control over us, so they can keep doing what they do in the shadows. And a lot of people are also saying, why would they write this? Why would they show us this? It's kind of how I feel about chemtrails. People tell me, like, why would they show you what they're doing? I think they get off on it. I think they like showing you what they're capable of and making you sound crazy amongst the general population. Oh, that guy's insane. Look at us now. Look at how many things have been mentioned in these emails already that do confirm things that a lot of us have been talking about for years. It's not like they actually explicitly said Pizzagate, but there are a lot of things about children, torture, people, power, murder, heads of governments, trafficking, arms trafficking, lots of money, investments, Palantir technology, neuroscience, transhumanism. It's all here. We can debate its veracity, as we should. But we can't let ourselves be satisfied with this. There's so much more that has to be done. And I think most people are seeing now this is too big to just be like, all right, let's move on. But I'm afraid that will happen within the upper echelons. And I don't know if they have it in them to truly do what Agenda 47 promised, which was to obliterate the deep state. Those are Trump's words. And this is a part of that deep state. This invisible network of satanic pedophiles that are running the government in this country and around the world. And they do it brazenly, through blackmail, through force, through murder. So we'll leave it there, guys. It's good seeing you. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I was so sad to not be here last week, but the whole family got sick. It was disgusting. But I thank you guys for your patience. It's good to be back. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Till then.